Hey, Rick Says here. Welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I hope to provide entertaining conversations with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz to get their stories, tips, strategies, productivity tricks, and ideas that you can apply and take your career or business to the next level. This episode is brought to you by Rumple. I use my Rumple blanket on chilly photo shoot mornings making coffee. I love it. My Rumple blanket takes the chill off while I'm waiting for the water to boil. It also keeps me toasty stargazing at night. Get 15% off your Rumple blanket with code OutdoorBizPod at rumple.com. That's OUTDOORBIZPOD for 15% off your next Rumple blanket at RUMPL.com. Hello, everyone. Today we're speaking with serial adventure traveler and newly appointed managing director for Tracks and Trails, Chez Chesak. Welcome to the show, Chez.
Thanks so much, Rick. Happy to be here.
Yeah, good to chat with you. So let's start first with how you got interested in travel or adventure travel or both.
It started with the outdoor industry, actually.
Okay.
I was working in environmental nonprofits, found out that you could work for places like the American Hiking Society or the American Alpine Club, and got into working with those organizations, which allowed me to fall in love with the outdoor industry. And from there, a friend of mine had taken over an adventure travel association. So I worked for him to get that spun up over 9 years. And then from there, family travel, and now Tracks and Trails.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, you were with ATTA for a long time. You had a couple of different roles, right?
Yeah, I was there for about 9 years at the Adventure Travel Trade Association, and that was a fantastic introduction to the travel industry. It's really that sweet spot where the outdoor industry and travel really cross over really nicely.
Right.
So that was a really nice bridge into more general travel with family travel. Now really kind of back to a little bit more adventure, soft adventure travel with Tracks and Trails.
Yeah, very exciting. And how did the Tracks and Trails role come about? Did they pursue you? Did you pursue them? Obviously, you do that kind of travel, I would guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like so many things. It's all about relationships. And I had met the owner several years ago through the ATTA, and then he realized that joining the FTA, the Family Travel Association, made sense. And so he and I would just see each other at events and just kept talking, and conversations kept building until he realized that it'd be a good idea for his company to. Hopefully a good idea for him to bring me on board.
I'm sure it'll be a great idea. I'm sure you'll do great things.
That's my intent. Thank you.
Awesome. What was your first exposure to the outdoors? How'd you get into the outdoor stuff? You were, I think we were talking at one of these events. Weren't you an Eagle Scout?
No.
Okay.
My brother was an Eagle Scout. I got into football.
Interesting.
Football, and played football in college, and then got out of college and was sort of like, what do I do? And I got into the outdoor industry because of the United States Supreme Court. One of my college buddies, I moved to D.C. with some college buddies. One of them got a job, a real entry-level job at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Wow.
And I worked at the U.S. Supreme Court with him for about a year. And I've got all sorts of stories about I have literally played hoops with Clarence Thomas.
Wow.
I hung out with Sandra Day O'Connor and talked to her about witnessing the first atomic bomb ever.
Holy
first
cow.
test one, because she lived in Arizona at the time. I've got all these great Supreme Court stories. But I left the court. One of my colleagues.
What did you do for the court? What was your role there?
It's a pretty interesting role. So the marshal, the marshal of the Supreme Court, oversees kind of the operations of the building, and under that department, we were marshal's office aides.
Okay.
We were really this kind of catch-all.
Gophers.
Kind of this catch-all thing. Totally. We drove cars back and forth. We delivered the mail, but we also sat up on the benches during cases. I ran a soundboard during cases and things like that. We'd seat people. Some of us would literally help the justices on with their robes and all this other stuff.
Wow, very interesting.
So
yeah.
It was a fascinating experience. And everybody there was all young people looking to go to law school, but I wasn't. And that's when I got into environmental nonprofits. A few years later, though, one of my former colleagues at the Supreme Court, he said his wife was working at American Hiking Society and they needed some development help. They needed a development manager. And that's where I said, wait, there's an organization that's all about hiking and I can work there?
And they'll pay me? Wow.
Sort of, yeah. then I got to American Hiking Society, 3 great years with those guys. Then the American Alpine Club, 3 years with them. Then Winter Wildlands Alliance, about 3 years with them. Then took a little trip to Iraq with the Army National Guard, came back and started working at ATTA.
Awesome. That's great. So you have a different track into the outdoor adventure travel industry. That's great, because I think a lot of people listening to this may not know, and those of us that have been in the biz know it, but a lot of folks don't realize there are many ways to get into this industry.
Absolutely. I mean, I certainly had my retail floor time, working at REI in DC and Boston and things like that. And that was always part of the mix. That was my first attempt to try and figure out how I could get really into the industry. And most people, I think, look at the brands, look at the obvious things, the magazines and kind of the higher profile elements of the outdoor industry.
Right.
But there's always things like associations and nonprofits and stuff too.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about Tracks and Trails. There, you mentioned Soft Adventure. I think I was checking out their website. They rent RVs where you can get an RV and go tour the Southwest if you want.
Yeah, so focused on Western national parks, primarily in the U.S., but also in Canada. And I think it's just a fantastic, I like to call it a gateway drug to the outdoors.
Yeah.
Because it's not huge RVs by any means. It's nice, smaller Class C RVs.
No, perfect.
So still really well appointed and comfortable, but you're not driving the big Mondo giant RV around.
Right. The bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the secret sauce is that Tracks and Trails really plans it all out for somebody.
Oh, excellent.
They do all the reservations. Sure, they reserve the RV for you, but also all the campsite reservations.
Wow.
Any additional excursions, a day of whitewater rafting, a day of horseback riding. But so once you go to pick up your RV, you're handed a binder, and the binder has everything you need in it. Not just driving instructions, but then also things like here's your shopping list. And the King Soopers is down here, and the organic market is another half mile down there.
Oh, excellent.
And if you haven't built a fire before, here's instructions. If you haven't made s'mores before, here's instructions.
Excellent.
So it's a great opportunity for somebody, like I said, who's maybe interested in getting in the outdoors, maybe interested in kind of checking things out,
right?
But doesn't want to jump into like tent camping quite yet.
Right.
It's just a nice entry point for them to hopefully get hooked.
That's a great concierge service almost. I mean, it's
absolutely.
Yeah, just hand delivered. You go show up and go on vacation, and it's
Exactly.
it's not done for you. You have to do the things. But that's great. That's a great way to educate people and expose folks. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a nice sort of midpoint between just diving in head first.
Yeah.
And having just enough instruction and guidance to let you do it yourself.
Right. Perfect. Now you have an RV, right? You have a trailer, don't you?
Got a trailer, got a little R-Pod.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think I've seen photos of that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great way to travel, isn't it? You can sleep out of the rain and wind.
Well, like a lot of people, there's the evolution of the outdoors person. We started out hardcore backpackers and everything, and we're, loving it, sleeping on the ground and, doing all sorts of stuff in national parks and volunteer vacations and building trail and all that stuff. And then as you get a little older and you get the kids, you evolve to car camping.
You get a little more creaky in the bones. You want something a little softer.
Exactly. And then one day my wife, who's, a longtime outdoor industry person too, she was just like, that's it. I'm not sleeping on the floor. So now we've got this sweet little R-Pod that's all pimped out with nice beds and a tiny little toilet and, hot water and air conditioning and all that crazy stuff.
Wow, nice. You can cook inside if the weather's nasty. Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool. So what's your perspective on the travel industry? How have you seen it evolve over the past 10 years or so, and where do you think it's going?
The thing I'm really excited about is just certainly the millennials seem to have a deeper passion for travel than we had seen before. And I think that's part of a shift just with people in general. I mean, for a long time, our society, the version of success for an individual was that you went out and you accumulated a lot of things. Right. A big house, lots of cars, maybe a boat.
Yeah. What was,
and then at a certain point,
what was that movie? Greed is Good. Yeah, that was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then at a certain point, people realize that these things are also burdensome, that they have to take care of them and manage them. And all those things require more money and or more time. So we started to, like the travel industry as a whole has become more experiential, getting away from sort of the fly and flop vacations where you fly and you lie by a pool somewhere, then you fly home.
Right.
They want to get out. They want to experience the culture. They want to be active. They want to do outdoors things. we're just seeing the millennials coming up who are even more focused on this, really much more about accumulating experiences and not so much the stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're starting to see some small spikes. I shouldn't say spikes. Certainly some notable growth with millennials and how much more they travel, how much more they get outside. They're not at a point yet where they have a lot of disposable income.
Yeah.
But they're still making it work.
Yeah, they still get out regardless of the income necessary. They go. There's a lot more folks. We see out here in the West, in Bishop, we see a lot more backpackers, and I think you see a lot more folks, just traipsing through Europe. You're right. That's way more experiential. The adventure travel industry, SOBAC, they're just seeing a big growth in participants. So that's awesome. And I think the participants also care deeply about the land, right? There's a lot more interest in preserving public lands. We've seen an upswell in that, which is fantastic.
Well, that's the beauty of it. I mean, we're all concerned about sort of the tipping point, particularly with places like national parks, in terms of some of them getting overrun or at least feeling overrun. Oftentimes around the visitor center, anybody who's a real outdoors person knows, particularly in a national park, once you get into the backcountry, you can generally have the place to yourself.
Yeah.
But, in terms of carrying capacity, there's obviously a concern and there needs to be a balance there. The flip side of that, though, is to get people really passionate about the outdoors and the environment, is you have to get them there.
Yeah.
And, if someone like a Tracks and Trails can get, say, a New York attorney who's never been outside before, get them into a national park and blow their minds, they're going to go back to New York and say, that place is special. That was amazing.
Yeah,
First of all, what else is out there? What else can I do?
Right.
And two, I want to make sure that I can take care of that because I want my kids to be able to have that exact same experience.
Right. And I think people are, discovering the public lands as well. Like we have a lot of BLM land and Forest Service land. They call it dispersed camping in the Owens Valley there. You see a lot more people there. I've noticed it in the last 2 years than I've seen in the last 10. They're parked down some dirt road with their trailer or motorhome, and they have a little Jeep where they go traipsing around during the days, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many gems out there with state parks.
Right.
Mean, certainly, there's fantastic Forest Service land, but even some city parks, depending on where you are, can provide a really pretty fantastic experience. I was just up in Ithaca, New York, and they've got these fantastic. The place is full of waterfalls. They have waterfalls all over the place.
Interesting.
And they have these fantastic local parks there that are just great for just like a short little hike or a mountain bike ride. Some of them you can camp in.
Yeah.
So even down to municipal level, there's always some gems out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So was that your most recent adventure, Ithaca?
No, I was actually at a conference in Argentina, Salta, Argentina. It was a tricky time for us. My wife was with her company in Madagascar for 3 weeks.
Wow.
We overlapped at home for literally 18 hours. Then I flew to a conference in Salta, Argentina, and then directly to another conference that was on a cruise ship out of Orlando.
Oh.
A family travel conference.
Oh, wow. So you've been busy with the conference life these last few weeks.
Yeah, then was home for 4 days, and then AOR, Association of Outdoor Recreation Educators, hit that one. But things are quiet now.
That's good.
So
what was your most recent camping adventure with the family?
We've been doing just kind of local stuff here in the Midwest. I'm based in Cincinnati, and so it's just a lot of nice little spots just to get away very quickly. We organize an annual camping trip with our kids' school. And we just take over a loop. Yeah, we take over a loop of a local state park. It's 40 minutes away, so it's readily accessible. Or if you've got a kid who's sick, or if you forgot something, you can even just drive home. But again, it's just one of those things where locally, even in the Midwest, which I know a lot of people in the outdoor industry look down upon, because they're either from the coast of the Rockies, which are fantastic, but there's still places to get away here and still have a great outdoor experience. Great
places to get away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's some beautiful spots. And do you have an adventure planned? What's next for you guys?
Well, working in the travel industry, one of the benefits is that you get to take your own trips once in a while. You've got to know your product, just like any other industry. Right. And so we are planning a Tracks and Trails adventure. We're doing the Mount Rushmore trip in South Dakota.
Oh, fun.
With an add-on for Badlands National Park. And really excited about that. So that'll be fantastic.
Cool.
And we've got 3 relatively young little girls. So anytime we can get them to someplace like another new national park and blow their mind a little bit more, we're
Right.
psyched.
Nice. Awesome. That's great. What other outdoor
Yeah.
activities do you guys participate in?
Not enough.
Do you haul yeah, do you haul a lot of bikes and paddle boards and stuff with you, or
The
not so
bikes, the
much?
paddle boards, there's pretty fantastic. This is an unknown thing about the Midwest. There's some pretty fantastic biking in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Ohio is working on a plan to link their bike paths so that you could bike the entire length of the state, which is pretty sizable.
Wow. Cool.
So a lot of good bike paths and stand-up paddleboard you can put in anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The skiing is not that great.
Yeah, there's not that many mountains back there.
I'm jonesing for that.
Yeah.
But the good news is working with Tracks and Trails. They're based in Grand Junction, Colorado. So I'll be forced to go to Colorado a lot and have to ski there, I guess.
That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
Me too. I'm pretty bummed.
That's great. Yeah. And you guys fish and do that kind of stuff too?
We don't really. The latest thing that we started doing is my wife loves the water and she loves warm. And at a certain point, there's actually a great company I've done some work with in the past called Kids Sea Camp. They do scuba vacations for entire families. They teach the little ones all the way up, and you can get an 11-year-old kid on up certified in scuba.
Wow.
And so Sally, my wife, I introduced her to scuba via Kids Sea Camp, and now she's all about that. When she was in Madagascar, she did a little diving there.
Very cool.
So we might have some more diving adventures in our future too.
That sounds good. Well, we'll put a link to all that stuff in the show notes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And what about some nonprofit work that you do? I know you work with a couple of nonprofits, correct?
When I can, certainly.
Yeah.
Sally's gotten back into the nonprofit side of things. She was in travel, but she's taking a new job with a local nonprofit here.
Oh, cool.
I'm continuing my work with Family Travel Association on their board.
Awesome.
And always, always still passionate about nonprofits and their mission. So always interested in ways that we could help people in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to either get into a travel career or grow a travel career if they're already in?
A secret of the travel industry.
Here you go, folks. You heard it here first.
Much longer.
No secret anymore.
If you haven't heard it, travel agents are booming.
Oh, I have heard that.
Yeah, this is something that with the rise of the internet, everyone said, all these sort of jobs are going to go away. And here's an example, travel agents.
Yeah.
Well, the opposite has happened. We can all book all of our own trips now. Great. But now we're also all overwhelmed with information.
Yeah. It's information overload. You're right.
Absolutely. And so a lot of them are getting away from the name travel agent because they really feel like they're more a travel advisor.
Mm-hmm.
They get to know you. They get to know your family or your friends or whatever. They get to know what you're looking for travel. And they can plan it for you.
Right.
And generally, it's either entirely or almost entirely free. Some of them have a planning fee, just in case they don't want you, say, poaching their itineraries if they work with you and give you a whole itinerary.
Right.
Then you go book it yourself. That's bad for everybody.
Right.
And the reason why I bring all this up is because these guys are, with millennials starting to travel more, to have millennial travel agents, to have younger travel agents out there.
Oh, yeah.
Travel agencies are psyched about that. They love young travel agents.
Yeah.
And travel agents, they get a bad rap because there are a lot of bad ones out there, but that just means that the industry embraces the good ones that much more.
Yeah, if you can separate yourself, yeah.
Absolutely. So a fantastic way to get into the travel industry. And in particular, if someone thinks that they're a blogger or they want to be a blogger or they want to be a travel writer, they can do both. So that they can set up a blog and say, hey, look, I'm blogging. I just went to this great place. Look, I went to Salta, Argentina. It's amazing.
Right.
Why not have a button at the bottom that says, if you want to book this trip, call me now.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're also becoming more like concierge. And one of the perks is that you have to obviously take, like you said earlier, take these trips to go experience and see what it's like. And, that way you can speak from expertise. You've been there, I've done that. This is why it's cool. You got photos. So there are a lot of perks.
If you've been there, done that, and you know the product, you can sell it a lot better.
Exactly.
The equivalent of swag and pro deals for the travel industry is the FAM tour, the familiarization tour, and that's where an agent or a writer is taken to a destination, shown around. you have a great time.
Yeah.
They overfeed and overdrink you.
Overserve all across the board.
Thank you. Because they want to blow your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, they can be kind of intense because they pack so much into such a short trip.
Right.
That it's just like, all right, let's go see this. Let's go check that out. Let's go experience it. Let's go do zip lines. Okay, you've done that. Let's go stand up paddleboard.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of travel agents out there that do nothing but sell Disney and cruises, and good for them doing that thing. But more and more, you're also starting to see these specialist travel agents arising. And so adventure travel is certainly one that an agent could specialize in, and or a certain region. If you're passionate about Latin America, you can specialize in Latin America. So there's all sorts of different opportunities out there. And then there are, in terms of pursuing a travel agent job, either as a full-time job or an add-on to what you're currently doing. And then there are consortia, like Travel Leaders is one.
Oh, interesting.
Where somebody can, become a travel agent through them, or just basically have a national network that will help you do things like setting up your website, and immediately gives you a much more professional presence rather than just saying like, "Hi, I'm Chez. I'm now a travel agent.
Yeah.
Buy stuff from me."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You've got a whole network of information that you can tap into there.
Yeah, that's excellent. And is there also opportunity to become trip leaders? So some of these,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another good avenue into the travel side of things. If you're like, say, a passionate biker, if you're, I think a lot of people in the climbing community, they know how to become a guide. They're probably all guides themselves, or
at some point.
guides.
Yeah, right. That's how you break into it, right? You become a guide, like a river guide, and then you decide that you're wanting to take it to the next step. But yeah.
Yeah. So and that's just it. So you can become a seasonal guide. Find a company that specializes in what your passion is and what you know well and what you can do well. And the key there is that if you're an introverted person or you don't have great people skills, don't go that route.
Yeah.
But if you do, if you're that person, you got that personality, and you're passionate about a certain sport, there's probably a tour operator out there running trips focused on that sport.
Yeah.
Find them, become a seasonal guide, and then start to work your way up, coming back year after year, showing good progress, showing interest in the backside of the business,
right.
And start to get into the tour operator business that way. And by the way, if you're out there and you're passionate about your sport and you don't find a tour operator that's running that sport,
bingo,
maybe you should start doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That light should start flashing loud and bright.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Is that how you got started? Did you do any of that? Were you weren't a travel agent or anything, weren't you? Were you a guide?
No, I wasn't. But the other thing about being a travel agent is that I'm technically a travel agent now because I've created a partnership with a local travel agency.
Got you.
And anybody can do this, honestly. So that even if you're not going to pursue a travel agency as a full-time profession, but let's say if you travel a lot and people are constantly coming to you and saying, "Hey, you travel. Where do I go in Chile? Where do I go in Alaska?"
Right.
You keep telling people the same thing over and over again. And by the way, book this hotel and take this flight and everything else.
Yeah.
You can sign an agreement. You can become an independent contractor for a local travel agency.
Oh, interesting.
You direct your friends to that agency with all that information that you're giving them anyways. If they book through that agency, you get a cut of it.
You get a commission. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So why not?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, a lot of us travel a ton, so that's a great way to connect in that arena. Do you have any daily routines that you use to keep your sanity, like meditation or exercise? Play with the kids, I'm sure.
CrossFit.
Oh yeah, okay, that's good.
I mentioned I used to play football, so to go toss around some heavy weights and do stupid things with tires once in a while helps keep me sane. Yeah. I wish I was doing more meditating and stretching. I need that more often, but haven't found time for that yet with the kids and everything else. Yeah,
it's funny. I'm the same. I played football, and that stretching and yoga. I'd love to do yoga, but I just cannot get into it. I don't know what it is. Us ball sports guys seem to want to throw stuff around and hit stuff
and knock people over. Exactly.
Exactly.
It's in our core. It's in
something.
our DNA.
Yeah, something. Yeah. Do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often?
I love to read. I've always been passionate. I'm a recovering English major.
Nice. And do you read, or do you listen to Audible? How do you digest?
Oh, anything I can.
All of the above. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, we have access to so much these days. I'm trying to Still trying to work my way through Team Arrivals, which I've wanted to read forever. So I'm working on that currently. But yeah, there's so many just great podcasts and everything else out there.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's things like my daughter's trying to recommend things to me. I can't remember the latest title. They're like, Dad, you got to read this book with me. And I'm like, that'd be amazing. I want to read your book that otherwise I would have no interest in with you. But of course, it's just finding the time.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a favorite book?
Ulysses. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
By Joyce.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind when I opened that up in college. I kept thinking, why is literature not more like art? Where's the modern art of literature? And then I felt like when I opened that book and it was all stream of consciousness and everything else, it was like, oh, wow, here it is.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, blew my mind.
Yeah, awesome. I'll put a link to that. How about some favorite apps? We're all using apps these days. You must have a fair amount of travel apps that you use, yeah?
Yeah, one of my favorites is TripIt.
Oh, okay.
It's a great way to bring together all your itineraries. Particularly if you're an FIT, a fully independent traveler, and you're booking all your own travel, you might say have a flight on one airline to New York, and then you're changing because you're saving money and you're flying to London, then to Scotland, then you're getting a hotel for the night or an Airbnb, and then you're on a ferry. You can take all those itineraries, all those confirmations, email them to your email address at TripIt, and TripIt puts it all into an itinerary start to finish for you.
Nice.
And it's all accessible there on your phone. And of course, you can always upgrade to get, more additional features and things like that. But it's just a great little app. Just for example, even on the airline's own apps, I've never found a way to easily just find out how long is this flight.
Yeah.
It says when I take off.
Yeah.
And then when I land in another time zone.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say 10 hours, 15 minutes somewhere.
Yeah.
It does that for you.
I'm busy. Don't make me do the math. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are apps for that.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. We'll link to that in the show notes. Any others?
Great. Not really. Nothing else that stands out. There are plenty out there for sure.
Yeah.
But that's one of my big ones for sure.
Yeah. You can get lost in the app world for sure. Yeah.
Yes, certainly.
Anything you want to say to or ask of our audience?
Travel more.
Get out. Yeah. Get out.
Get out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Good.
I might say that, for outdoor folks, if you haven't yet, certainly look abroad. It's a fantastically amazing world out there. So many great destinations. If all your buddies are going to Patagonia, hey, that's awesome. Go there. But, there's a lot of other things to be had. And I think this is a progression you see in the outdoor industry too, where you've got young indestructible people who get into harder core stuff like climbing and maybe like a hardcore paddling and stuff like that.
Right.
As you get older, you might be slowing down a little bit. As you get older still, that's where I've started to see a lot of people in the industry really start to get into travel. And that's where you can really go experience the cultures of a place. Don't just land in a place like Chile, run to the mountains, climb your face off and leave.
Right.
Look around a little bit.
Right.
Stay in the lowlands, go explore different parts, get to know the local peoples. So maybe travel a little bit more deeply too. And don't be afraid to pull the trigger on those unknown places. I mean, I'll give another shout out. I love Namibia.
Oh, okay.
In Africa, right next to, used to be part of South Africa.
Right.
This place is fantastic. There's all sorts of amazing wildlife and creatures you'll see there.
Right.
Norway, stunning
awesome
stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much out there, even within our own country.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to live in a big, diverse country here. And there's also Canada. The Canadian Rockies. I could go on.
Mexico, yeah. And don't always believe what you read in the news either, because oftentimes some of these places that the local news is blowing up about some event that happened, it's like an event that happened in America, right? Something happened in L.A. where you don't not go to L.A. If something happened in Turkey, you don't need to not go to Turkey. So
when the U.S. news was full of reports of how terrible Mexico was, and the State Department was saying, putting up travel warnings, don't go to Mexico.
Yeah.
Even with the horrible things that were happening in places like Juarez and beheadings and everything, that was all almost entirely along the northern border.
Yep.
We had a conference down in the southern part of Mexico, I'm blanking on the name of the state, but San Cristobal de las Casas was the town. And it was fantastic. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And not a lick of any problems going on there. So
Right,
yeah,
right, yeah. I mean, do your homework.
listen
You
to
don't.
those warnings.
Do your homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, do your homework. You don't want to walk into a potential war zone. But at the same time, I was in Istanbul a couple years ago, and it was totally fine. And the people, what I always find is the people are just like us, right? It's a different culture and a different language, and they eat some different food, but they want the same things we want out of life, and they're great to hang out with and great to talk with. So yeah, go experience that.
That's one of the things too about this particular audience. Anytime you've got a real outdoors person, a real adventure traveler, so many of these countries depend on tourism income.
Right.
It's a large part of their national income and their economy. And I like to call it kind of the Robin Hood effect, where we're taking rich people, bring them to a maybe more impoverished country.
Yeah.
We all go there, we spend money, we have a great time, and then we support the local economy.
Right.
And so. It's just something to think about as you get out there, is that you're also helping that just kind of that global economy too.
Yeah, exactly. You're helping the locals. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great advice. And where's the best place for people to find you? Email, Twitter, Facebook?
Yes.
All the above. Okay. Yeah.
All the above.
Okay.
Just Chesak, Chesak on Facebook.
Yep.
I'm a little bit on Twitter, mostly on Facebook.
Okay, Facebook. All right, we'll put your email there, and we'll link to. Which email would you like people to reach out to you at?
You can do Chez@tracks-trails.com.
Okay, perfect. We'll put that in there. Great. Well, thanks for the time, Chez. I appreciate it.
And, my pleasure, Rick.
Congrats on the new job. I look forward to hearing more.
Thanks.
All right, bud. Take it easy. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher, or go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Outdoor Biz Podcast, Twitter at Rick_Saez, that's Saez, and my email is rick@theoutdoorbizpodcast.com. Thanks for listening and all the support, and a huge shout out to all my guests, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.